The hostage crisis has returned to the centre of the Middle Eastern politics. Hamas, from its base in Cairo-brokered talks, has reiterated its willingness to release all Israeli hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners, a ceasefire, reconstruction and Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. On paper, that looks like a breakthrough. In practice, it's a trap, says Netanyahu, because it forces Benjamin Netanyahu to confront his most dangerous weakness, his inability to compromise. The Israeli Prime Minister insists on 5 uncompromising preconditions: the release of all hostages, Hamas's disarmament, the demilitarization of Gaza, continued Israeli security control, and the installation of an alternative civilian administration. These are bluntly demands that for Hamas's annihilation rather than a negotiating position, and predictably Hamas rejects them. And so the ball is now indeed in Netanyahu's court. Does he want to bring home the 20 hostages believed to be alive, including elderly men and women? Or does he want to prolong a war that has already cost over 63,000 Palestinian lives and provoked international legal cases against him personally? Pressure mounts on him from within Israel. The opposition leader Yair Lapid says negotiations must resume now. It's impossible not to even try to bring our hostages home. Families of hostages protest outside Knesset, accusing Netanyahu of putting political survival above the lives of their relatives. Even the United States, through quiet back channels, is urging Israel to engage with the framework on the table. Donald Trump's loud social media intervention, demanding Hamas release all 20 hostages, not 2 or 5 or 7, is bluster. But the real pressure comes from Washington's diplomats, who know that without progress, Gaza will remain a running sore in global politics. And here is where Britain enters the scene. Foreign Secretary David Lammy has told families of British hostages that recognition of a Palestinian state is possible even while Hamas retains captives. That is an extraordinary statement. For years, recognition was tied to negotiations, to a peace process, even to final status talks. Now Labour is preparing to recognise Palestine at the UN General Assembly regardless. Lammy says recognition is not a prize for Hamas, but a move to empower moderate Palestinians and to preserve the possibility of a two-state solution. Yet critics, including Labour's own Mike Tapp, warn that this rewards terrorism. Emily Damari, a dual British-Israeli citizen freed after 471 days in captivity, calls it a moral failure. Shame on you, Prime Minister. So we face 2 theatres of political paralysis. In Israel, Netanyahu is boxed in by his own rhetoric and the demands of his far-right coalition partners, who threaten to topple his government if he concedes anything to Hamas. In Britain, Keir Starmer is boxed in by his own backbenchers, who demand recognition of Palestine now, as famine deepens in Gaza and images of starving children dominate the airwaves. Both leaders have chosen rigidity. Netanyahu sets conditions Hamas will never meet. Starmer sets a deadline for recognition without ensuring the hostages are freed. Neither position satisfies the grieving families. Neither position looks like statesmanship. The paradox is sharp and stark. Hamas says it's ready for a deal. Israel says Hamas is spinning lies. Britain says recognition can go ahead, even if hostages remain in chains. In this hall of mirrors, the only people not being heard are those who matter most, the hostages themselves. So, here's the moral question. What is diplomacy for, if not to save lives? If Netanyahu will not seize this moment, if Lammy will not tie recognition to the release of captives, then the hostage families are right to ask whose side is the West on, the politicians or the people who still wake every morning in captivity.